I recently saw this news article where a family moved from Maryland to Oklahoma, and then when they got to Oklahoma, their home was raided by ICE agents, ransacked. Some property was taken, and this mother and her child were just traumatized without any way for recourse or any type of accountability. And I think it's an appropriate time to just talk about civil forfeiture and how that impacts a lot of communities that really don't have a voice. And we should just listen to what's going on and try to understand it a little bit better because every year we have $3 billion in assets that are going to be seized from Americans, and there's no criminal charges required to do so. It's their life savings, and everything is just gone. And so it already affects those that are living on the edge or afraid to come forward, and it just exacerbates a bigger problem that continues to persist in our society. What is it? Let's just think about it. This happens a lot with your normal traffic stops. And so you suspect someone may be smoking weed in a car, for example, and then there just happens to be cash in the car. And so you are going to take the cash out of the car because you are suspecting that person of smoking weed. So that's a crime. And so we're going to go in there and try to investigate what's going on. And then that money's just gone. And so it's a legal seizure. It's really when law enforcement can take your property that they suspect is connected to a crime. But here's the thing that there doesn't actually have to be charges, right? You don't have to be arrested. You don't even have to be convicted. It's just suspected of a crime, and then these assets are taken. Most likely it's going to be cash, something relatively small, but just taken. And so we see this with a wide range of assets, but primarily with cash, but it can happen to vehicles, homes, personal belongings, anything along the line can fall under that category. How does this work? There has to be some preponderance of evidence. That's what we usually say is the basis, the standard for that initial seizure, but that is just a suspected criminal activity or the suspicion of a criminal activity. So that would be your preponderance of evidence. It then becomes up to this owner to prove that those assets are innocent, that they're not involved in anything. To actually reverse that burden of proof is put onto you. And then there's a financial barrier to actually proving this. So sometimes the legal costs exceed the value of the assets that have been taken. And so people basically give up. For example, a mother lost her house after her son was charged with a $40 drug offense. Or how about in Mississippi when a man had $4,500 in cash seized, but fighting the case cost him $3,000? Or how about most of the cash seizures in Texas being under 2000 just targeted the financially vulnerable who didn't have the ability to speak up and just basically took the money, allowed the money to be taken and not really have anything to do about it. Your vehicle's taken, that's a loss of transportation that's needed for work or maybe for travel. Sometimes when there's cash, that could be your life savings coming back from a bank after you just cash your check, for example. And there's no real recourse for you. Housing instability, some of these assets can lead to misrents or homelessness. And here's the thing, like once you actually have these things seized, it's very hard to get them back. Less than 70% of the seized assets are actually ever returned to the owners. And so we have seen a lot more scrutiny and some reform. 36 states since 2014 are looking to pass some type of reforms. One of the bare minimum requirements is that someone at least be convicted of a crime before assets can be seized. So that way there is some accountability there. And there's bipartisan support from it, as well as a lot of advocate groups taking aim at this issue to make sure that it's protecting the citizens. And so we just have to have the ability to fix this system that is broken. It traps people that are already in really bad situations in a cycle of poverty that they can't get out of. It really just requires very simple reforms, like you have to be convicted of a crime, something very simple. And then one of the biggest things is that it just needs to be standardized across the entire 50 states and in all territories. So that way, you can be assured that laws won't change as you go from one city to the other or from one state to the other. And maybe if we could do that, we can shed some light on these civil forfeitures, which are causing a lot of people to